All right, Raheem from over the weekend. I'm back and alive and here with the great radio Raheem. Moses Itauma gets the KO 1 over Dillian Whyte. This was kind of his Jerry Cooney against Ken Norton fight. And by the way, I think Moses Itauma definitely a lot more talented than Jerry Cooney, who wasn't bad, by the way, in the 80s. But point being, someone tweeted at me after the fight, Raheem, that the name was bigger than the actual challenge by this stage of Dillian Whyte's career, which same thing for Ken Norton with Jerry Cooney back when they fought. And but point is, still a really impressive showing by Moses Itauma. We got to get to a few topics on this because Usyk previously said he's only got 2 fights left, and he's already had one of those two against Daniel Dubois. As time goes on, I'm wondering if he's really committed to that. Like, it's not set in stone. It's just something he said a couple months ago. But we got to decide if we only have one more Oleksandr Usyk fight left in his career, one more title defense. Do we want it to be Parker? Do we want it to be Usyk or Parker? Do we want it to be Moses? But before getting to all that, man, just the fight itself. What were your takeaways from the fight itself?
You can't take anything away from Moses Atama after a performance like that. There'll be plenty of excuses as to why this wasn't as dominating or as important or significant a win as the name would suggest. You mentioned in your open, I am not surprised that that's one of the first things that people will say. Oh, his age, where he is in his career. Has he ever, Dillian Whyte, won a world title? All of these things we can discuss about Dillian in the context of his career as we look back on it once he does sunset it. What I don't want to be lost in this conversation is that Dillian Whyte deserves a ton of credit for last night. Oh, he got a one and done. I see headlines, Dillian Whyte destroyed by Atama, Dillian Whyte steamrolled, and we're going to see all the memes and we're going to hear all the praise from Atama and not much credit to Dillian. He took a fight that nobody wanted. He came in the best shape I've seen him in the last 10 years, if not more. He got beaten by not only an up-and-coming fighter with fantastic potential who may be a world champion one day, not today, but Father Time certainly played his role. The difference between Dillian Whyte and all the other fighters who were offered the Atama fight is Dillian Whyte took it with zeal. He took it with the intention of coming in his best form. And on the night, it wasn't even close to good enough. But if you want to criticize these guys who don't continue to take the big challenges, who wait for a major payday, who want a 50-50 fight at best, if even that, then you got to credit the guys who get out there and take the bigger challenge. He didn't make a shit ton of money doing this. It was pay-per-view, shouldn't have been, in my estimation. He took a comeback fight, Dillian Whyte did, that all odds were against him. Everything you can look at on paper, with the exception of experience, was stacked against him. And even his experience, really, he hasn't taken him to being a world champion in his career. So he was looking to do something great on the night, and he came prepared to do that. He didn't get the job done, but he did what we ask fighters to do. And once they do it and they get beaten, especially if it's a one and done like this, we don't give him the credit. We don't tip the hat to thanks for the effort. He didn't come in there and just lay down. He didn't come in there fat, out of shape. He didn't come in there not trying. He got beat, and then he got up to his feet, and then he fell back into the turnbuckles, and then he shouldn't have been able to continue. It was a legitimate stoppage, but he wanted to go on. And he even argued with the ref after the fact. I liked everything I saw from Dillian Whyte, and I want to put some respect on his name. I like that in a fighter. I like that he took the fight. I like the attitude he had with the fight. He didn't disrespect even Atama at his young age and his novice status in the sport. When I say novice, I just mean the amount of fights that he's had and the competition he's faced. Dillian could have disrespected him. Dillian could have talked a lot of shit. Dillian could have done his thing. He was very realistic coming into the fight, and people were so much so that they were saying, "Oh, what's he playing at? What's his game here? Is it a mind game?" I think Dillian was being sincere, and he knew the challenge ahead of him, and he's been around so long that he just wasn't in for the whole the shtick of all the bullshit.
Well,
and he went in there and did the best he could do.
That Itauma has put pause on all the heavyweights throughout the United Kingdom. So Dillian, to your point, he probably knew what he was up against. He knew that this wasn't just some hype job. There's probably fellow veterans he respects that he's fought, that words got back to him. This kid's putting pause on everybody, bro. He's next. Yeah, to your point.
Yeah, I mean, he put pause on everybody that a fighter who is beginning his career would have in front of him. He didn't put pause on anybody,
no,
really.
I mean, in sparring throughout.
No,
you're
right,
gym,
exactly.
Word getting around, like Golovkin back in the day. Yo, this dude's bodying all these names in the gym. Yeah,
right. And we've heard the same from Martin Bacoli, and all of that matters, but it don't go against the record, right? And when you get in there under the hot lights and the big pressure, that could be different. There's a lot of guys that did well in sparring whose names we don't even remember. This guy might be different. And we're seeing now, especially with the performance on Saturday night, that he is meeting the levels when they put it in front of him. I just don't want to forget that fighters who take a challenge bigger than they have to, not necessarily for the money, but because they know that it's their moment, if they're going to have one, to be great. We talk about Terrence Crawford going up 2 weight division to fight Canelo, and he's daring to be great. Canelo going up to fight Bivol, he's daring to be great. I saw Dillian Whyte going in there against Itauma, daring to be great, and I respect that. He said something also in the buildup that got my attention. Derek Chisora, for instance, was cautioning Dillian, man, don't take this fight. And tongue-in-cheek, Derek. I mean, he's one of these guys that you cannot question his heart, if anything. But, he's like, I don't want to fight these young guys. Like, yeah, I'm in the sunset of my career. I'm not trying to get these young up-and-comers. Yeah, that's smart. I understand that thinking. But at the same time, Dillian said, once a guy starts making some noise and you're supposed to be, the tough man, you're supposed to be the road man, you're the big man on the block who's done all this stuff, and all of a sudden these guys turn pussy. Then they don't want the fight. Then it's like, oh, this is bad matchmaking. Like, why should I take a challenge like that? That ain't the fighter's mentality that we asked for. That ain't the fighter's mentality that we want when these big fights come up and you want the best fighting the best. Well, if you want to be the best and it's in your 20 or your 37th career or your 37th year of life, and you see that sunset coming, then you got to reach for it. And when you do, we should not punish these guys by disrespecting them and not putting the right, emphasis on the challenge that they accepted when they fall short. That's it, man. I really like Dillian Whyte for this. And while from this moment forward, all the talk is going to be about Itauma, I just don't want Dillian Whyte to lose this moment of, hey, man, thanks for coming in with the effort. Thanks for taking the fight nobody wanted to take. And, I don't think he's done. I think he just got dead.
Yeah, this used to be a big rite of passage, especially in the heavyweight division. Veterans with names got to be a stepping stone for young guys, or else young guys can't get over, to use a wrestling term. Mm-hmm. So I give Dillian Whyte credit for taking the fight too and doing the job, for Moses Itauma honorably, right?
Right.
And as for the fight itself, I know we only had 2 minutes of action, but what Itauma continues to showcase in these limited spurts is he checks the big 3 boxes. The third one, you got to see extended rounds at higher level to truly check it, but I'm going to give it to him anyway. Speed, power, and skills. And he's arrived at the point only the best prospects throughout boxing have arrived at, which is like, I don't really question if you can fight, and you got bricks in your hands and you got blazing hand speed. What happens when someone punches you back in the mouth? What happens when someone makes you think and adjust, takes away your primary weapons? What happens when you got to go 12 rounds? Are you as good in the 8th and the 9th as you are in the 1st? But the big fat boxes, he's checked them with flying colors. And in this fight, more of the same. He has the ability to lead and to counter, and he could throw combinations. He in this fight, he did a great job with guard manipulation, throwing a decoy punch to set up the other shot. the way he snuck in the right hook to hurt Dillian multiple times, and he threw it to the body in combination. But to finish off the show, the way he's able to sweep the left hand and then short, fast, explosive, hard right hook that Dillian doesn't see coming. Hand speed at play, precision at play, punch selection at play, to detonate on him and get him out of there in one round is a testament to his arsenal and to his talent, you know?
You like to talk about the twitch. You like to
Yes,
talk
yes.
about
That
the
jumps off the screen.
reflex.
Yes.
And that is where Dillian Whyte fell short on Saturday night. And I believe that is Father Time playing his role. And you say correctly that these are shots he didn't see coming, but should have. And that is what was disturbing Dillian from the beginning. You could see from the very first punch that landed, he was startled. Not because it was painful per se, but it was like, wait a minute, how'd that get there so quickly? And why didn't I see that coming? Like, this is something I wouldn't either have gotten hit with or at least been prepared for when it landed earlier in my career. And that shot landed again, and then a shot upstairs landed again, and he's trying to get his wits about him, and he got overwhelmed by a fighter who was not just throwing a blizzard of punches. He was punch selecting, and those shots were landing, and Dillian just never really got his legs under him. Never, from the very first punch that landed on him, he never had his wits about him. He wasn't able to control anything, and he was, flustered. And to your point again, the finisher came out in Moses Itauma, which we have seen, which is why he's getting these first round stoppages. He is a finisher. In the post-fight interview, however, he credited Ben Davidson, which honorable mention for sure, being in his corner, giving him the right game plan. This is what I heard that was of significance in that post-fight conversation. He said that Dillian was doing exactly what Ben told him he would be doing. And even at the very, very early stages of the fight, which again, it's only 2 minutes, he said he's not really a coy guy. He's not a wordsmith in the sense that he's going to misdirect you. If you listen to what he says, he'll tell you everything. Mm-hmm. And what he told us, Itauma, was that at the beginning, he wasn't sure if the game plan was going to play out the way that it had been told to him. He was like, but then I saw that Dillian was doing exactly what Ben told me he would be doing. So then I did exactly what Ben told me to do. And essentially the fight was over. So he's going to have brimming confidence in his corner and his training. He is going to be going into the next camp with absolutely no doubt. And when those things play out the way you're told that they will and the dominoes fall that they should, it is only going to increase your level of confidence and in those tough moments make you stick with the game plan. But to your point though, Sean, when the game plan doesn't work, when you need to make adjustments, when what you think is going to happen isn't happening, then what do? This was supposed to be a fight that might answer one of those questions. If it's the late rounds, how do you respond? If you're in there against a guy that is beating you to the body and tying you up and the body snatcher is having his way, do you still have power? All these questions that we were hoping would be answered, none of them were answered in this fight because it's 2 minutes and he came in with the right game plan and then executed it with precision. That is an incredible win and confidence builder, but those questions remain unanswered. Now the question is, who can pose the next set of questions that demand an answer? I don't really know the answer to that question, Sean, and that's the one I think that's going to be on the tongue of every boxing analyst going forward. Who's the guy that puts Moses Itauma through the paces?
Well, I'll get to that in just one moment because I think Caballel, Joseph Parker. Look, Parker, Usyk says it's either burnout or an injury. He needs a little bit of time after the Dubois fight for his body. He's been on a hell of a run. He wants a couple months to himself before defending the title again. Maybe the WBO and Turkey decide, hey, let's match up Parker and Itauma. Everybody's saying, everybody's arguing Itauma isn't ready. Give Parker a shot. How about you two can fight each other then, and then the winner gets the champ. But something I want to get at about Moses for a moment is because they're the boxing commentators go again, falling in love and fawning over the newest, shiniest toy, right? Well, no, we will offer some critiques on Moses too. Hasn't really been a lot to critique inside the ring, if anything. But outside the ring, what I didn't like this week, he did an interview where he said, I don't really give a shit about what the media think. I understand you have to have tunnel vision and be focused on the job and your craft at hand to get where you got to go. I get it, right? You can't, he doesn't need to listen to our podcast, for example. I'd like it if he did, but anyways, he said, if you get the media, he compared to pigs, and you'll run. He said, never toss around with a pig because you'll end up in shit and the pig will like it, right? And well, first of all, that's just very disrespectful to any denomination of working people, period. Just because it's okay to talk shit about the media to everybody, and we get why, at the end of the day, they're human beings like anybody else too. So it's always not cool to just generalize a whole group of anything. But anyways, beyond that, it's not even true, Moses. You are being you didn't win a gold medal. You haven't fought anyone in the top 10 beyond maybe Dillian Whyte, who was past his best. And yet here I am saying, I think I want to see Itauma fight for the title because he's just so talented. He's just it's the opposite. He's saying, oh, you'll never get the credit. And it's like, Moses, that athlete comes a dime a dozen about they'll never give me the credit, the woe is me. And it's just not the reality. You're already you're getting credit as maybe the best heavyweight prospect since Mike Tyson. I mean, how much more credit could you possibly get? The main promoter is talking about skipping the guy who's been on a tear, beating veterans who've been heavyweight champions, and is going, yeah, but this kid's so dope. I might just give him the title shot instead. And I'm saying, yeah, I think I might roll with that. I might be okay with it because he is that talented. So that's a little petulant from Moses Itauma. You haven't really accomplished anything yet. Why are you already complaining about the media? And I hope, Raheem, that with the public, because media is medium. We're supposed to be the go-between. A lot of the media's narratives and the media's blah and blah and blah are discussions we pull from the public to present to them. So when they're shitting on some of these discussions and all that, they're really shitting on you. We are the medium between you and them. And I hope that the reason why I hope the public becomes a little that doesn't hit with us the way it did the last 20 years, doing the media trope. Because we want to know about you. What do you have to say? What do you have to offer the world? What are you all about? What's in your chromosomes that you can offer us? Give us something, captivate us, intrigue us. So the point is, I think Itauma might be the best young heavyweight I've seen in the new millennium. Might be, right? I mean, let's see. But he doesn't have the 1 in 10 million personality of Tyson Fury, with all his brilliance and sometimes hypocrisy and bullshit mixed in with brilliance and all that. He's not Anthony Joshua, the muscle-bound Adonis that's GQ, front cover type dude, gold medal, right? 6'6" Adonis. He's not that. He's not built like that physically. He doesn't have that stature, and he doesn't have Fury's personality. But the motherfucker can fight his ass off. And I love watching what he does in that ring. And even if, despite everything I said, even if he's going to be petulant about the media and all that, he fights so good that in the long run, whatever.
You know what it is, Sean? It's immaturity on one level, and it's insecurity at a bigger stage. It's that when he sees himself reflected in the media, he's probably not as confident in the way he is able to deliver exactly what we're meant to go after, which is who he really is, and open up that book and read some of these pages, get at some of the things that you hide. Let's talk about some of the stuff that is uncomfortable. And if we are doing our job and we have these opportunities to speak to the fighters, that's what we get at. And when you talk to Moses and you see him in the press, he is careful with his words and he wants to come across well. And I'm sure, like any of us, wants to be received well. And I don't think he trusts us to present him in a way that is beneficial to how he wants to be seen. And he's not media savvy enough to do it himself. He can't really fence with us. So instead, he vilifies us. So when it doesn't come out looking the way he wants it to look, it's our fault. And it helps him shun the media because he doesn't want to have those media obligations to continue to be in front of us, because One of us is going to get at him. There's going to be some tough moments. There always are. And if you're not media savvy or confident enough to handle those moments, like a Tyson Fury who will, again, bullshit his way out of a bad interview or nonsense, a tough question, and then give you all personality. So you're happy as an interviewer because you know you got a headline, you got a moment, and then he never really did answer the question that was meant to be asked and answered. And that's another kind of fight. It's fencing. It's not a warrior's battle in the ring, but it's a mental battle on the paper with the scribes and in front of the video with we in the broadcast press. So if you're not confident in that way, then this is his way of bullshitting until he can figure out exactly how to handle the press. I too am annoyed by that. I'm not insulted as I might be if he were a veteran. I'm hoping that he evolves and figures it out and then is more confident with the press and doesn't feel the need to vilify us. With that said, I'm sure as a young fighter, as a young man watching his heroes, the press can be fickle and the press can be hypocritical and the press can be way too negative and kick a guy when he's down and build him all the way up just to tear him down. We've all seen that happen. I understand that. But you're in this business and you're being spoken about in the breath of a Mike Tyson, in the breath of the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world after your best win is Dillian Whyte at 37. This is something that you have to learn how to handle. And making us the bad guy out the gate while we're making you the good guy is not the way to do it. He is already projecting the fall. He's already trying to guard against us tearing him down. And it could happen. I'm not saying if he loses a fight, if he loses the next fight, if Dillian Whyte had beaten him, what would we be saying now? Oh, a prospect that, you know, we were way over our skis on what this guy could be. He's probably done. Press would probably be saying things like that if he had lost on Saturday night, but that's also a part of the game. That's part of mental toughness. That's part of the training that you need that doesn't happen in the ring. It happens outside the ring. But if you're going to be the kind of star that people are projecting you to be, it's a skill you're going to need to hone. It's something you're going to have to be able to deal with and handle. And he's right, you know, in the sense that I understand the pig analogy is insulting. We're not pigs. But what it means is if you tussle with somebody who lives in shit, then they're going to like it. You're just going to come out smelling and covered with feces. However, what it really means is you're overmatched. This is a medium of intellect, at least it should be. This is a fencing of minds. It is a trying to get out of you something that you're trying to hold back. It is taking angles and pressing you on questions that are uncomfortable to answer. And if this media job is being done well, then it is difficult to navigate that landscape. And we do like it. That's why we do it. So it's part of your job and it's our job to make sure that we treat you fairly, but that we get at the things that might be uncomfortable for you to talk about. It's a give and take. Let's not vilify the press and act like we've done something to you or intend to do something to you that is untoward or unfair. Deal with it. You're the golden boy right now. And you won't always be because nobody is forever.
Right.
But along the way, learn how to handle that. I think Anthony Joshua was one of the best ambassadors for the sport, especially when he was on top and unified champion. He was on every billboard, every commercial. He was all across the United Kingdom. He never really made it in America because of the upset with Andy Ruiz. However, he really was a polished pedigree ambassador for the sport. All the things that you say in his attributes physically, sure, but the way he was able to handle us and the way he was able to really present British boxing at its best, that's what Anthony Joshua did that made him a superstar. You can learn from that. Maybe you can't teach it.
Joshua, though, always came off to me as a skilled politician. And Fury would sometimes outright be full of shit. But I always felt like I was getting more of the real, authentic Tyson Fury. And Joshua, I felt, had his image cultivated. He's a gentleman and, you know.
You need both, though. Yeah. You need both. Yeah, Fury does it one way. Joshua does it another way. And Itauma will find his way to do it.
Yes.
But you got to find your way to do it. You know, yeah, if Joshua's not an open book and more authentic, then it's our job to get at that. I think I've had some real moments with Joshua, and you're right. They're not easy to come by. But when you get at them, they're real, and they're more impactful because they're hard to get at. And
Well,
then when the
not
media
everybody
did
got
turn
the
on him,
skill of a Radio Raheem
right,
to
and
pull
most
the.
don't have the skill of a Moses Itauma. So I got to do my job at this level as you do yours, and he does his. But I'm not going to just start shitting on him because he calls us pigs, and also he shouldn't call us pigs because he expects us to start shitting on him. But when they started shitting on Joshua, you saw how much that affected him, how it hurt him, and how he had to start dealing with that in a different way. That could be coming Moses's way sometime down the line of his career. Who knows? These are the things that make it hard to be a star, a superstar. These are the things that make it hard to be heavyweight champion of the world and all that means. That's why it's such the hallowed ground and desired crown, because you have to be good at all of these things at once in front of the whole world. And if you are, and you do that, and you become that kind of star, your name lives on, echoes through generation and generation, and kids that you will never meet want to be you. Kids that well past your time on this planet will have your poster on their wall. That's what it means to be able to check all of those boxes. And I hope Atama realizes that and, is up for the challenge.
All right, so now the discussion is because if what would you rather see, Parker or Itama? I asked you this a couple months ago. We'll discuss it again right now. If you put a gun to my head and you said you could only see one fight and Usyk's only going to defend the title one more time, I'm going to go with Moses Itauma because for very simple reasons. If I'm pulling up to a live stream to watch the fight that night, the one that has me more excited throughout the week, throughout the month, and on the night of the fight is Usyk versus Moses Itauma. There's more of the unknown there. I think I know what I'm going to get with Parker and Usyk, a very competitive, high-level fight between two veterans, and I suspect Usyk to win. Moses Itauma can do something to shake up boxing, to shake up the heavyweight division, to have a like Muhammad Ali, Sonny Liston kind of moment. Usyk's, look, respect to the legends of the past, the Hall of Famer Sonny Liston. Usyk's a much better fighter than Sonny Liston was. So it's a taller task. And I'm comparing Moses in this case to the greatest heavyweight that ever lived, Muhammad Ali. So I don't know if it goes like Clay and Liston, Ali Liston, but that's kind of the fight I'm thinking of. And even Floyd Mayweather, Genaro Hernandez, Gervonta Davis, Jose Pedraza, Usyk is in a different stratosphere than those guys. But the point was, Hernandez and Pedraza, even with their experience and on paper, they have so much more experience. Mayweather and Tank had fought nobody to kind of be ready for that moment, but their talent couldn't be denied. It was their time. There's a chance that even with all of Usyk's IQ and feints and movement, and Itama has some good southpaw feints too. He's a southpaw too. He's one of the few heavyweights that's going to be able, and Parker is one of them too, that can really challenge. But I think Parker challenges Usyk in a few areas of IQ and footwork and all that kind of stuff. But I think Itama actually legitimately possesses some physical advantages over Oleksandr Usyk, where I see Parker challenging him in some key areas. I actually think Itama has a few physical advantages. He's the bigger puncher. His hand speed might be a touch faster, a little more explosive and twitchy than the 38-year-old. Parker's done everything to earn it. That's a fight I've wanted to see since Usyk came to heavyweight. I have a tweet back in 2020 saying I really want to see Usyk and Parker. But if there's only one more title defense, I want to see the potential supernova, the young phenom against one of the all-time greats. That's sexier to me than the hard-fought veteran who earned it and has had some bites at the apple and has fallen short. Yeah, that's all. If I can only get one, I want the young phenom. I want the young supernova. And I think he's got a real chance of winning the fight. I might even pick him if he gets the fight.
I'm going with Parker. I understand your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
If the fight were made, I'd be excited as well, for sure. It's not the fight I want.
Would you be more excited than Parker?
It's not the fight I want. I wouldn't be. And because I see it more like Canelo Mayweather. You'll see a fighter that may one day be the face of boxing, outclassed, out-experienced, somewhat embarrassed by an Oleksandr Usyk. I believe that Usyk in this, while being 38, I know that Itauma just dusted a 37-year-old, and we talked about Father Time being a part of it. However, Father Time, some in cases, picks his favorites. And right now, Usyk is one of his favorites. What Usyk will be able to do in breaking down Itauma's weaknesses and the things that he's not experienced in seeing will run him out of time. By the time Itauma knows what's happening in this fight, it'll be the 10th or 11th round. And unless he can make the 12th round, like his first round against Dillian Whyte, he's just going to get outclassed on the cards. He ain't going to get knocked out. He's not going to get beat up or stopped. I don't believe. But again, those many questions that we still have to answer about later in the fight, and frustration and game plan not going the way you expected, and a fighter that has the kind of IQ that Oleksandr Usyk brings to the table. What do you do when you're up against one or two of these challenges? Well, do we want a Moses Itauma against all of those challenges at once? I think it's a tall order. I think it's a big ask. I think it's too much, too soon. And I won't miss that fight if it never happens. If Usyk retires and never fights Itauma, I won't be like, oh, I wish I had seen it. And that's how I would feel if he retires and doesn't fight Parker at this stage. I will have wished I had seen it. I think you're right. Parker has earned it. But more than that, it's an interesting matchup.
For sure,
respect and believe in Parker's IQ. I think with his relationship with Andy, his trainer, they are on a tear for a reason. I think his confidence is brimming. He never really did get that gold ring. He never had that moment. He wants it so badly, and this is his last shot at it. That kind of narrative excites me more than the young lion and the all-time great. I want Parker in the ring against Oleksandr Usyk. I want that next. I want it for the undisputed heavyweight championship, and that is the fight that I'll be pushing in the press. Absolutely. And I want to see Itauma face these questions one at a time, or at least two at a time, but not all at once. There are many other fighters that can pose these questions and make him answer them. And I want to see him go through the gears, not just rocket ship to the top and do what I think will be an embarrassing performance, to be fair. I think Oleksandr Usyk is that much better, that much more seasoned, and will know how to put a game plan together that will absolutely best whatever Ben Davidson brings to the table against an Oleksandr Usyk. You just don't have time to get Itauma ready for Usyk next. I don't see that. I don't see that as a great fight. I see that as one of those fights that's a turning point for Itauma. He might get better faster after Usyk beats him because he will have seen all these things and had been forced to try to adjust to them. And I think it's just like Canelo. From that moment, he might rocket ship quicker than he otherwise would have. But it's not a fight I need to see right now.
You know, Ali got it done at 21, Tyson at 20.
Sure.
I just mean, Wilfred Benitez became champ at 17. Leonard and Hearns fought at 23 and 25. And what I'm getting at, Raheem, though, is like, if he could pull it off, that'd be a beautiful shot in the arm for boxing. I mean, I don't know how much of a shot in the arm it is when he's fighting in front of 10 people in Saudi Arabia, but it's the kind of shakeup that would be. I think everything you said makes so much sense. Like as you're talking about how the fight would probably go in reality, I'm visualizing Usyk just dissecting and taking this guy to school and picking him apart. But I still think the kid could maybe pull it off and shock the world.
Listen, I would be excited if they made the fight. It's not like I'd be like, oh. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm into it. We'll talk about it. I'll give predictions.
I think it garner a slight eye roll from you. Like, really? They did this to Parker, and they're gonna do this.
Okay. In that regard, yes, I will be very disappointed that Parker doesn't get that shot. I will think that it's a bad matchup. I don't want to see that next. I think I've made that clear. With all that said, I'm not going to be one of these people. I'm not covering the fight, or it's not that egregious. But the question really was, what do I want to see? What do I prefer and why? And that is where my answer is coming from. It has nothing to do with whether or not I could get up for an Itauma Usyk fight. I certainly could. Just wouldn't be my choice, and I don't think it would be doing Moses Itauma a great service to give him that shot now. He's got plenty of time to really to collect the belts once Usyk does retire and they scatter and he's got to fight his contemporaries to put it together. To me, that would be a more impressive way to become undisputed champion than if he did somehow beat at 38, maybe even 39 at that point, Oleksandr Usyk in a fight that he would definitely be a massive underdog, never having gone past, I think, 4 rounds. Like that would be an incredible feat. However, I would prefer to watch him fight his contemporaries, go around, collect those belts, and really get to undisputed the hardest of the hard ways. I prefer that. I'd take it this way if that's the only way that we're going to see Usyk in his next fight. If it's against Itauma, fine. But I don't think we need it, man. I need Parker. I want Parker. I think that's the fight that, gives us the most narrative to discuss. And I think it's the matchup that's the most interesting.
What do you think we wind up actually getting? How's this play out? What are they going to match make?
When Usyk said that he's only got 1 fight left, I think he meant he's only got 1 serious fight left. I think he's going to fight Parker, and I think he's going to fight Parker and defend that undisputed 1 time, because the thing is, he's never defended as undisputed champion. And he is the kind of guy that thinks about these historic things. Mm-hmm. And so I believe he'll want to do that. Now, there is a more clever route. However, the 1 fight left prediction doesn't allow for it. And this is what he did with Dubois. He was so confident in believing that he could beat Dubois a second time, or Hrgovic if it ended up being that he went ahead and vacated that IBF, always fully expecting and anticipating a matchup to get it back, so he could become 2-time undisputed in the 4-belt era. That was very clever, and it went to plan. Imagine him retiring 3-time undisputed heavyweight champion in the 4-belt era. Well, he'd have to run that same hat trick again, but of course it will require him to have 1 more fight, or for him to lay out and let that WBO title get fought for and say, I got to be with my family. I need to focus on the war for a minute. I need a rest. Let them fight that out and then come back for that 1 fight and do it for the undisputed again. That might be a bit too clever by half. I think one of these other belts are then going to put a mandatory up and it might get too convoluted. But I don't put that past him as a strategy and then retire on the 3rd acquisition of undisputed. But given me the power, it's Parker next for the undisputed. Let's go. Last time out for Usyk in a serious fight. And then he starts making money with crossover, maybe MMA, maybe, he's going to start making big money doing silly things as he has a right to do.
I think there's a legit chance that we're going to get Parker and Itauma, because it's here we are for 30 minutes going back and forth about who it should be. And Parker, they're both ranked right beside each other with the WBO. Turkey wants this Itauma fight, but people are telling Turkey the kid doesn't deserve it because he doesn't. But he wants it. And even though I disagree with so many deep things with Turkey, Al-Ashik, I might actually agree with him on this one, on wanting to see Usyk Itauma. But if he's going to sell it without backlash, which then the kid has to fight Parker. So that would eliminate all the discussion of what are you doing? He hasn't earned it. He's jumping the line and all that. People would rightfully point out, well, Parker's getting fucked here. He got screwed out of fighting Dubois for the IBF title, and now he's earned his shot at the champion, and once again he's going to have to fight somebody else instead. Really another boogeyman, because Bacoli was a boogeyman when he knocked him out in 2 rounds. So I think there's I kind of think that's where we might be headed. Parker.
Don't forget Frank Warren in this equation, who's no dummy, who knows how to move with a heavyweight, who knows how to get world champions in his stable. He just lost Danny Dubois, the IBF heavyweight champion, to Usyk. He's lost Tyson Fury as the heavyweight champion to Usyk. He's not about to put Moses Itauma through that fucking meat grinder and lose his best chance at getting another heavyweight champion in his stable. He knows what it would mean and how much money he could make if you watch Moses go through the gears and fight his contemporaries and collect those belts. The collecting those belts isn't just for me to say, oh, I like watching a fighter get it that way. It's also a lot more money for Itauma, a lot more big fights, a lot more main events, big fights at Wembley Stadium, pay-per-view events where he becomes a superstar.
But Raheem, he's not signing the checks no more. He's not the final say anymore. Turkey is, right? And Top Rank had to see their young heavyweight that they had long-term plans for, Jared Anderson, go up in smoke because Turkey undercut their long-term plans, offered the guy more money than his own promoter can offer him, and so he was in there. To hell with it.
But that's an Anderson issue.
To Frank with Moses.
I don't think so. That's the thing. It's kind of like when back in the day when we were covering these, Al Heyman fights, and people were going to the Al Heyman fighters, and the sanctioning bodies were offering them world titles, and a call from Al would shut it down. And the fighter just won't go off script. And I believe that Frank has that kind of relationship with his fighters and certainly with Itauma because he's had so much success building fighters, bringing them through, getting them the money, getting them the title shots. And yes, Turkey has the biggest microphone and the fattest pin. But if the relationship with the fighter and the promoter is strong, then the promoter will guide the fighter, and it's Turkey who has to negotiate with the promoter. I think in Frank Warren's position, even more so even than Eddie Hearn, I think Frank is in the best position to work with Turkey to get for his fighter what he wants and can say no to the guy. I think he can. Now, he might have to make some concessions on another end. He might have to, I'm not saying that's an easy thing, but Frank is not being dictated to in that regard by Turkey, not to that degree.
He's already making concessions with the kid fighting in front of 14 people in Riyadh instead of 20, 30,000 in England.
But it's a pay-per-view fight, Sean, which Turkey promised we would see no more of. And the reason
also that
that's what I mean. It's a trade-off, right? So Frank's still getting the money. The fighter's getting a fatter purse. Dillian's getting 2.5. They put it on pay-per-view, even though Turkey said that's not happening anymore. And then you get that fight in Riyadh. But the truth is, if you put that fight in London, it's not also still not a massive fight because Itauma's not a massive star and Dillian's not a marquee pay-per-view fighter.
People show up en masse for Jack Catterall. They'll show up for Moses.
I'm not at the level that a heavyweight prospect of his level of discussion should warrant. And you don't want a half full Wembley. You don't want to fight at the OVO. You don't want a small venue in London when you can go to Saudi, blame Turkey for not being a big crowd, build this guy's name. Now, after having done this to Dillian, he'll sell more tickets in London. It's not time yet. And that's what I mean. Frank is a fucking operator, man. He's not getting run roughshod by the Turk.
He's just slowing he's slowing my roll on all. Let me tell you how it works over here in the UK heavyweight boxing scene, Sean. I love it. No, I love it. But I think, look, hot take. We're gonna get Parker Itauma, and Itauma's gonna beat him so that then they can make the fight they actually want to make.
That would be amazing. I mean, imagine that for Parker. Yeah. Imagine that.
No. Did I say Parker's going to be that? Other way around. Itauma's going to be Parker. My mistake.
Oh, well, okay. Well, if that happens, though, then, yeah, I'm way more on board with the Itauma fight because what we will have to have seen from him in that fight will answer some of these questions. It'll make me feel like, okay, well, he's got more boxes checked. He's seen more things. He's got a better IQ now. His confidence going in this fight will be stronger. I'd probably, depending on what it looks like, I might still be picking Usyk, but it'll be more interesting, right? However, I don't think Parker should have to clear that hurdle. He might have to. I think the scenario you laid out is very likely, in fact. And okay. But, I mean, my God, man, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. How many times are going to put this guy through another hurdle? Give him his fucking shot. You know what I mean?
Because I mentioned all these comparisons, Floyd, Gennaro, Ali listed. I got one last for you, okay? Itauma Usyk, Joshua Klitschko. I know.
Usyk is
It's
not
not the same.
Klitschko
It's
right
not the same.
now.
Joshua, first of all, Joshua was much more prepared for that
He was
assignment
already
at that
he was a
point.
unified champion going
Yeah, he
into
was a
that fight.
unified champion. He was a unified champion. Vlad had already lost the title and was 41. He wasn't
And
undefeated.
was out of the ring for how long?
I know. But
I mean,
Klitschko Joshua. Close enough. Young British guy on the rise, aging Ukrainian champion, even though Usyk's showing no signs of aging, really.
Nah. You know what? This would have been a great fight for Itauma if it had been Klitschko, a 41-year-old Klitschko against Itauma. I'd like to see that next. You know what I mean? In a fantasy fight, that you know what I mean. 41.
That would have been
not Klitschko now, obviously. But yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, I could see him. I want him to go through the levels. I really do, man. It won't be nearly as satisfying, and it will be a huge, incredible hurdle for him to clear if he somehow got the Usyk fight next and then beat him. I'm not even diminishing what that would mean. Yeah, I get it, how crazy that is to even say, much less to watch happen. However, if he is what we say he is or what many project him to be, I'd like to watch him become that with his contemporaries. I'd like to see him battle it out with the young class of fighters. I'd like to see him seeing different looks. I want to watch him grow and develop. I don't want him to become undisputed champion right now. It's not because I don't want the kid to succeed or have anything against him. It's just not what I want to watch unfold. This is a much better, interesting story. That's like turning a great series into a single show, like a one movie. I want to watch Peaky Blinders. You know what I mean? This is a one-shot thing. And then if he becomes undisputed, then talk about a target on his back. Everybody's coming from it. I think it changes the dynamic crazy. Like I don't like what even that does to the landscape. Then the mandatories come. Nobody else is. It would be an interesting night and an incredible one if he somehow got it done. But it would fuck the landscape. It would really be a problem for the other fights to be made. I want Usyk to have one more fight against Parker and then retire undisputed and let those belts hit the water and scatter, or Parker becomes undisputed and now he's got to fend those belts off against these young fighters. For me, that's a much more interesting and engaging narrative.